everyone, welcome back to my channel for a gardening Q&A. Like I said when I did a call for questions, I am not super experienced. I have gardened before, but this last summer has been, like spring and summer, has been the most intensive gardening and the most extensive gardening that I have done. So I've learned a lot and I kind of wanted to share some beginner gardening tips with you guys, and that is why I did a call for questions. And I've had quite a few questions, so I'm just going to jump right in. I had a question from Leah a little while ago, and she asked which gardening gloves I use. And I use the Lynn River Shower or Shower ones. That's the brand. They come in 15 different colors, and I have a purple pair and a pink pair, so that I've got one to wear while one is in the wash. These need a wash, but my pink ones haven't come out the wash. I don't know where they ended up, so that's why these haven't been put through the wash yet. But I find that these are really good quality. I was wearing through the tips of all of my gloves, and these ones have held up pretty well, and they're also quite durable. Like the palms of them are quite tough. You can grab prickly things, and they fit well as well. I got some which fit quite snugly, and so I don't feel like I lose dexterity when I'm working with little seedlings and things. So I highly recommend those. I got them at Bunnings. They have, I believe, 15 different colors, and they're not the cheapest, but I don't think they were the most expensive either. They're about $15 for a pair. Debbie asked, when is the best time to plant different things? It depends on where you live, and it depends on how long your growing season is, and it depends on if you have a greenhouse or if you're just planting direct into the garden. So I'm going to link below a website that I use as a reference guide for a gardening calendar. You can choose your area, and then it tells you what you can plant in which month. It's really useful. So that's one that's relevant to New Zealand. There are, of course, calendars and websites like that for whichever area you live in the world. So just have a look, find out what climate zone your area is. There's usually like zone number 7 or zone number 5 or whatever, or it might be called cool temperate or subtropical or something like that, and then find out what you can plant when. Just do a search for a calendar, but I'll link the one below that I use that is relevant to New Zealand. Selena asked, what is your best gardening tip at the moment? And I don't have one single tip. I am going to make a video with a bunch of tips, so stay tuned for that. I guess if I had to pick one, it would be just start, just try it. What's the worst that can happen? Just give it a go. If you fail, it's not like your family's going to starve. You're not relying on your crops to feed your family, you know, as the sole source of food. So it's pretty low risk. Get some seeds and just give it a go. Molly asked, did you grow the milkweed plants from seed, and if so, was it difficult? Yes, I did. I bought a packet of seeds and I just gave it a go, and they all came up. I don't think any of them didn't germinate, and it wasn't difficult at all. I just kind of stuck them in the greenhouse and they did their thing. In fact, they grew so fast that I wasn't actually ready to plant them out when they were ready to be planted out. So some of them still haven't been planted out because a monarch butterfly found them in the greenhouse and laid eggs all over it. So they were full of caterpillars, and I didn't really want to disturb them too much by planting them out. So some of them are still in pots. So really it was super easy, and I'm not sure how well they're going to survive into next year. I kind of saw them as, here's a source of food for this season, go for it, monarch butterflies, and if I have to do it again from scratch next season, that's fine. So yeah, give it a go. It's really pretty easy. She also asked, do you plan to make a brassica cage next year, or did you not have much damage? We really didn't have any damage at all on our brassicas. Brassicas are cauliflower, cabbages, broccoli, those kind of plants. I expected the slugs to go to town on them, and pleasantly surprised to find that they didn't, and we didn't have much damage at all. They were riddled with earwigs when we took them inside to wash and cut them up, but then I looked that up to see, like, are earwigs helpful or harmful, and earwigs actually eat slugs and things, so I was quite happy with that. So we didn't have much damage there. The white butterflies found them really at the end when I kind of let some go to seed. So it wasn't caterpillars that caused any damage, it wasn't slugs that caused any damage. They were pretty fine. We got away with our brassicas this year. So I'm not planning on building a cage. If I do need to protect them next year, I will probably get kind of netting or something to put over them. You know, like the fine, what do you call it, that gardening cloth stuff, that stuff. I'm going to put that over to protect them from butterflies if I need to. She also asked, what are your plans for crop rotation in your raised beds? I don't have an actual firm plan. I am growing year round. That's the beauty of New Zealand, or at least where I live in New Zealand. You can garden year round, so you don't have like a growing season and then you stop. You have obviously your summer vegetables and your winter vegetables. So I'm just trying to not plant the same thing in the same place twice. I do kind of want to move things around and obviously feed the soil in between each one. So that's my main thing. It's just don't plant the same thing in the same place twice and feed the soil lots in between. Antoinette asked, my question is, what are the most low maintenance vegetables to grow? She says she's always wanted to have a little veggie patch and doesn't know much about gardening. I feel like zucchinis were pretty low maintenance and prolific producers. So chuck some zucchini in and just leave them. I didn't really have to do much to mine. In fact, the beetroot was the same. Beetroot is something that I can grow year round, and there's so many different types as well to try, which is quite fun. You have the classic dark red beets, and then you get the Kyoja ones, which are like pink and white stripes inside when you cut them open, and gold ones, and white ones, and long ones. And so there's so many different types to try as well, which is quite fun. They were quite easy to stick them in, and they went, like I've done seedlings transplanted and also just sowed them direct, and they came up fine. Carrots are pretty easy. The hardest thing about carrots is sowing them thinly enough, because they're such fine seeds, but you can mix them with sand and then scatter the sand, and you can see where you've sown, and it also disperses the seeds more evenly and thinly. So yeah, what else? Just think about what you like to eat and give it a go. Honestly, just give it a go. Something that's difficult for somebody else might be easy for you, so just try it. You never know. Quite a few people, including Jen, Rochelle and Joe, asked, what will I grow next year again? And is there anything I don't plan to plant? And what would I like to grow more of? I'll definitely grow tomatoes again. Okay, so this year I grew tomatoes, beetroot, carrots, butter beans, purple beans, radishes, lettuce, salad leaves, basil, butternuts, pumpkins, peas, sugar snap peas, corn. What else? Let me have a look. Oh, broccoli flower, cauliflower, probably some other things, but that's all I can think of. I'll definitely grow all of those, except the corn I'll grow in a different place. I won't grow them in the beds. Broccoli flower, it was alright. It was fun to try, but it's not something that I'm going to seek out to grow again. I will definitely stagger my crops more. I was pretty good at successional sowing, but I bought a 6-pack of lettuce seedlings from the garden centre and planted those, and then of course, yes, 6 lettuces ready at the same time, and that was just too much. So I'm going to be really careful with my winter crops like cabbages and broccoli and cauliflower to stagger my sowing by, like, sow 1 or 2 at a time and stagger it by a couple of weeks, because we did have a couple of gluts of that. What will I not plant? I can't think of anything that I grew this year that I'm not going to grow next summer. Oh, maybe sugar snap peas. I made the mistake of planting like peas, sugar snap peas, sugar snap peas, and not marking which ones were which, because I thought I would remember, and of course I didn't. So I didn't know which ones to pick when they were just tender little pods and which ones to wait to fill out with peas. So I just kind of waited for all of them to fill out with peas. So I won't bother with sugar snap peas next time. I'll just plant regular peas. Plus the sugar snap peas took forever to kind of germinate and grow, so I won't bother with them next year. I was also asked by a few people, including Jen, how is the worm composting coming along, and can I do an update and let you know if I'm using it in the raised beds yet. We're not yet using it. We bought 1 box of worms, and they seem happy and they are eating through the scraps, but not fast enough for our liking. Plus it hasn't really like filled up. We're not ready to harvest the compost yet. I don't think it's ready. It can take a while. So we are planning on getting a 2nd box of worms just to keep up with the amount of veggie scraps that we've put in there, because we eat a lot of fresh produce, and so there's a lot of scraps and veggie tops. Yeah, it's doing well. Not ready to harvest the compost yet, and planning to get a 2nd box of worms. Shauna asked, aside from the building of the raised beds, how many hours a week would you estimate you spend planting, maintaining, whatever other magical things you did to create this magnificent result? Thank you, Shauna, for saying my results are magnificent. I try to kind of keep track or think about how long it takes me, and I've kept track since she asked me the question. and I honestly couldn't hazard a guess, because some days I'll spend maybe 6 hours in the garden doing a lot of things, and then for the next week and a half all I'm doing is harvesting. I'm not really doing much in the garden or pulling a few weeds here and there. So I don't really have a set schedule. It's hard to know how much time I spend in it. Mulching the front bed where the pumpkins are took 3.5 hours just to mulch that bed. But then I haven't had to touch it since to weed it. So, you know, you could spend a lot of hours in the garden weeding and doing things, or you can spend a couple of big sessions doing things like thick mulching and then not have to weed. So there's ways of saving time in the garden as well. But yeah, I'd say every 2 weeks I spend a good few hours in one go sorting things out. But then in between that, it's really not much. Like, I'll go out for 15 minutes and just harvest, and it's just like take. I'm not really putting much back into the garden or watering things in the greenhouse. Like, that's quick to do because they're only in shallow pots, so I'll go out of an evening and water whatever's in the greenhouse. So sorry that I couldn't actually answer your question. Lisa asked, would you buy more or grow more from seed? When I had a garden, I had great success by finding a nursery in my growing zone that sold seeds. The seeds I bought from them grew healthy and produced well. I will grow everything from seed. I honestly thought it would take years to establish a garden, like a flower garden, from seed. I know that veggies, there's a much shorter growing season, but I thought that growing perennials from seed was going to take years, and I thought I might as well just start. But this is the difference in one of my perennial beds. I'll show you the difference in such a short amount of time. So you can see how quickly my garden filled out, and everything, pretty much everything was grown from seed. I've bought a couple of seedlings. Veggies, seeds. You can stagger your sowing, you can control how fast your crops come out rather than getting 6 things at once. If you're buying a little punnet of 6 things, definitely seeds. However, things like hedging plants and shrubs, like my hydrangeas, I will propagate my hydrangeas from cuttings because, like, you can never have enough hydrangeas. But we have a nursery near us where they are so cheap for shrubs and hedging and those kind of things that it just makes more sense to buy from there, because it will just be so slow to grow from seed. So for example, a hydrangea bush, maybe this tall, is $5. Like, why wouldn't you? So seeds for pretty much everything, especially now that I have a greenhouse. I really don't have any excuses. But I'm not averse to buying seedlings if I need to. Baima, I think that's how you pronounce it, asked how to grow plants from seed. Any tips and advice would be great. Also, how to take cuttings from another plant and tips for root planting, please. Okay, growing from seed, you can start your seeds indoors. I obviously have a greenhouse now, but I've only recently got that in spring, kind of when it was almost too late, you know, to boost off the growing season. So I was starting things indoors and just in a sheltered place in the garden. Get yourself some seed raising mix and just go for it. I did not know what I was doing. I learned as I went. I scattered carnation seeds from a packet into a little tray. I think it was a takeout container of seed raising mix, and lo and behold, later all these seedlings came up and I was like, what do I do with these now? And so I went online and learned about pricking out. I'd heard of pricking out before. Basically, pricking out is when you loosen the soil and you take each tiny seedling and then you make a hole. Like, I've got an old pencil. You make a hole in a pot and you stick that seedling and then close it up. So you just taking each tiny little sprouted seedling and planting them into its own pot. And I thought that was going to be so tedious, but I so enjoy pricking out. It is so therapeutic. So just go for it. Look online how to prick out or how to start seeds from scratch, or you could just, you know, get your little punnet with like 6 cells or whatever, fill it with your seed raising mix and then just put 2 seeds into each one. If they both germinate, you can prick out one to a different cell. If only one germinates, then that's fine. You've not lost anything. Try it indoors. You want it somewhere that's sheltered and warm, but it really needs light. Once they start growing, they need light, or else they're going to get leggy. So you can put them on a windowsill. You might have to rotate them because they might start growing towards the window and you just want to turn it around to even out that growth. If you don't have a greenhouse and you don't have space on your windowsills in your house, or you want to kind of start acclimatizing the plants to the garden more, get yourself some big plastic containers with lids and just stick them in there. They're like little mini portable greenhouses. You can just put them outside. Mine didn't even have lids. I kind of put them in containers without lids just to kind of block the wind, but obviously the cold still sinks into it. And they did fine, they did alright. So just give it a go and you'll learn as you go, or you'll encounter questions as you go. You'll be like I did, what do I do with this? You know, all these seedlings have come out, what do I do with it? Then you go and learn that, and you just kind of learn piecemeal as you need to. Okay, asked, how successful was the seed tape that you made yourself? I will link the video here for you. Did you find that it sprouted well or not? I made some carrot seed tape following your instructions and have successfully grown carrots for the first time ever. That is so awesome, and I'm so excited that you got to grow carrots for the first time. My seed tape was not good. I planted out radish seed tape, like a few strips, and carrot seed tape, and one strip of the radish seed tape sprouted. I don't know what was going on there, but none of my seed tape worked. So I kind of feel like a bit of a fraud going, oh, here's how to make seed tape, and then mine didn't even work. But yours did, so like, I guess the technique is still valid. Maybe it was the glue I used. I thought it was straight up PVA, but maybe it wasn't. You never know what you're getting from the dollar store. But yeah, mine didn't work. I'm gonna try it again. Obviously, I'm gonna use up what I have, but I haven't been successful so far. Julie asked, how many seed potatoes do you put in a potato growing bag? I had the potato bags, well, it was like garden bags from the dollar store, and I put 3, I think. I put 3 into each bag. I feel like I could have put more, especially since I didn't really make many potatoes. But I kind of went on the premise of 1 per square foot. Well, 3 in one bag was a bit tighter than that, so yeah, I just put 3 in each bag. Mandy asked, any suggestions for small container gardening? I don't have the space for raised beds because my yard is mostly brick and concrete. I'm in South Africa, so same season as New Zealand. What can you suggest we start with as we prepare for autumn planting? Okay, so that's kind of 2 questions. Small container gardening, just get your containers and go for it. I will insert pictures here of what we did in England. We had the tiniest little yard and we grew loads of veg. So I'll put pictures in here showing you what we grew in containers. So you can see you can grow pretty much in containers. Plus the advantage of containers is you can control slugs. And there's 2 ways of doing that. You can buy copper tape. I just got some off eBay or AliExpress. It's self-adhesive. You put your copper tape around your container, and the slugs can't cross that, and snails. They can't cross that because it causes a chemical reaction in their body. Or you can rim it with Vaseline. They also can't cross Vaseline, it's too gross and gunky. So that's what we did in England. I didn't have copper tape at the time. I just rimmed it with Vaseline, and like I would check it every now and again, and if it melted off or washed off, I would just put a nice thick layer on again. And that protected them pretty well from slugs and bugs and things. The only thing about containers is you do need to water them more frequently because they're going to dry out. You can mulch in them, but of course they're being heated from the sides by the sun, which is an advantage. You get, your soil warms up sooner than if you're just planting into the ground in spring, but it can dry out quicker. So mulch them thickly on top and be sure to water them. And then the second part of her question was what to plant as we prepare for autumn planting. Your brassicas, cabbages, broccoli, cauliflower, leeks, carrots, radishes, beetroot, spinach, what else? These are all the things I'm planning for my winter garden. Swedes. Yeah, just kind of like your root vegetables and your brassicas mainly. Spring onions I'm putting in as well. By now we should be starting to look at harvesting pumpkins and that. So although those are winter veg, they started at the beginning of summer, so can't start those now. Claudette asks, what grows best on the North Island? I'm going to Wanganui and would love to start growing our own veggies. Again, that diary calendar thing that is linked below, that will be helpful for telling you what you can grow in your area. So figure out which zone you are. I still haven't figured out if we're cool mountain or temperate, I think it is, because we're near the mountain but we're not that near the mountain. So I kind of look between the two and just get an idea. So yeah, figure out your zone in Wanganui, and that diary is really helpful. Christina asked, are you using any plant foods or sprays and fertilizer and bug, snail or slug prevention? No, not really. I'm trying to keep my garden organic. No, I don't use artificial things on it. I have fertilized with organic blood and bone because my pumpkins really needed that, and I've kind of put that into the soil as I take things out and fertilize before putting something new in, but that is organic. We do plan to use the compost and the worm compost, and as far as slug and snail prevention, I'm happy to have the earwigs in the garden because they take care of that, and also I've sprinkled bran, like baker's bran, around the bed. So apparently the slugs love that and eat that, and then it swells up in their stomach and they get all bloated and they lie around and the birds eat them. So I haven't, touch wood, had much trouble with slugs and snails, so I guess that's working. Again, the copper tape you can try and the Vaseline. But yeah, we haven't actually put anything artificial. I don't want to do artificial fertilizers and things. I'm trying to keep garden natural and organic. Andrea and Molly also asked, what are some good crops that can be planted in the next month and over winter, and I've already answered that. Charlotte asked, can you tell me more about caterpillars? They don't eat the rest of the garden? Question. The caterpillars I think she's referring to are the monarch butterfly ones that we had in the garden. They're kind of all turning into butterflies now. No, they don't. They don't eat anything except for milkweed or the swan plants, which is what they're called here in New Zealand. They don't eat anything except for that, which is why I specifically planted that, so that they have something to eat. But they don't eat anything else, and apparently the birds don't eat them because they taste bad and they're poisonous. So yeah, it was just fun to kind of watch them do their thing, and they didn't damage anything else in the garden. The white butterfly caterpillars do. They eat especially things like cabbages and broccoli. They love that kind of thing. We haven't had problems with any other kind of caterpillars. Rochelle asked, seeing how many eggs you eat, are you ever tempted to have chickens again? Tempted, a little bit, but I know we won't. We loved having chickens. It was so the right thing at the right time. But we're just in a different place in season now, and we're kind of enjoying not having animals to care for and being able to go away on holiday if we need to, or you know, like at the moment Grant's foot is broken and he's having to elevate it, so he's pretty much out of action, and I've been having an autoimmune flare and I've been really sick this last week, and it's actually quite a relief not to have animals to have to care for, or birds. But I loved having chickens. I loved it so much, and maybe one day in the future we'll do it again, but we're not planning to anytime soon. They are noisy, and with Grant working shifts and then trying to sleep during the day, yeah, he was being woken up by them constantly. They lay an egg and then they have to shout about it for 15 minutes, so. I tease him now because the neighbors have chickens, and when they lay an egg they'll be doing the egg song and shouting about it, and I'll say to Grant, Grant, there's a chicken that wants you to know it's laid an egg, it's laid an egg, it's laid an egg. Because that's kind of what he used to get wound up about our chickens, that they would lay an egg and be like, yeah, they need to tell the world. But yeah, going off on a tangent, no, we're not planning on getting chickens anytime soon. Heather asked, what can you grow in the garden this winter? I've answered that. Have you been able to add anything else to your diet? I'm going to be doing a video on how I'm doing on autoimmune protocol 2 years later, so watch out for that video. That answers that question. She asked, maybe you could grow onions next year, and why don't you have chickens anymore? Answered the chicken question. The onions, I was thinking about doing it, but from seed, because to me, like buying little onions and then growing them and then harvesting big onions, I could just buy big onions. So if I'm going to grow onions, it's going to be from seed. But I'm not in a hurry to, because they're quite cheap and I feel like they take up a lot of garden space for a long time. I don't know, maybe that's wrong, but maybe I'll grow some, but I'm not like planning on getting all of our onions from the garden because we do eat a lot. Molly asked, are you able to eat tomato products now, or are those all for your family? Yes, I can eat tomatoes now if they are organic and untreated and there's nothing on them. Apparently there was something in regular tinned chopped tomatoes and regular tomatoes that was not agreeing with me. That came up in my kinesiology check, but like organic straight up plain tomatoes or tinned organic tomatoes I can eat. So that's been great to be able to expand my diet there. Again, I'll answer all of that more in depth in my AIP video that's coming up. I expected more tomatoes. I thought that I planted I think 22, and I expected to get so many tomatoes that I'd be able to process and freeze a lot of them to use instead of buying tinned chopped tomatoes. But I don't know, the weather was so weird this spring summer that they're all kind of ripening now, but I didn't get as many as I expected to. But yeah, to answer your actual question, yes, I can eat the tomatoes. And then the last question is from Sarah. Is there anything you are completely sick of yet? No, maybe beans, the butter beans and the purple beans. They just produce so much that I'm like harvesting every single day and I'm kind of over it. Also because while you can just steam and eat them, that's kind of boring, and my family's not a huge fan of just steamed French beans. So then I'll make curry boinkies, I'll link the recipe here. Or, you know, I'll make something with them and then that's a bit of a hassle, and you don't always want to cook in summer, like you just want to throw together salads. So maybe beans. I will plant them again, but maybe not quite as many. There's nothing else I'm really sick of. Like I said, we did get like too much lettuce in one go, but I've been able to share that or use that. Like if I make a hamburger salad or something for dinner, then we'll use like a whole head of lettuce. So I'll just use it up. No, probably just the beans. But even then I can kind of blanch them and freeze them. So I've kind of planned, I feel like I planned the garden well accidentally. Like I didn't have a precise plan because I was learning as I was going. But because I wanted to grow so many different things, I didn't really have too much of one thing in one go. So it's worked out pretty well. So thank you for all of the questions that you guys submitted. Whenever I do a call for questions for a Q&A video, I always have this kind of like anxiety, like is anyone actually going to ask me anything? Is this going to be lame? So I really appreciate all the questions. Sorry if this video was like epically long. It's your fault for giving me so many great questions. I hope it was helpful. I am planning on doing a video on tips for beginner gardeners, so look out for that one. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.